we've had people say that, like, yeah, architecture history was kind of boring in school, but listening to our show, we say it in a way that's entertaining, and they're excited to learn about it.
You're listening to the Architect My Life podcast, a show dedicated to empowering women architects and designers to achieve business growth, financial freedom, and health and wellness. I'm Aya Schlachter, your host and CEO of MGS Global Group. Our company provides Revit, ArchiCAD, and CAD drafting services to busy architects and design firm owners. MGS Global started as a part-time gig when I was a new mom, but it has now grown into a thriving business that provides drafting support to creatives, helping everyone maintain a healthy work-life balance. This podcast is proudly presented by MGS Global Group. Now let's dive into this episode. Hi everyone, in today's episode, we've got the amazing hosts of the She Builds podcast, Elizabeth Rar, Jessica Rogers, and Norgerie Rivas. Elizabeth, or Lizi, is a licensed project architect from West Michigan, now working in California. She loves making projects both functional and beautiful for her clients. Jessica Rogers is a content creator and marketing coordinator who's passionate about architecture. Jessica has spent over 4 years working at the national headquarters of the American Institute of Architects, where she managed programs for emerging professionals and women in the profession. Last but not least, we've got Norgerie Rivas, an architect from Puerto Rico, working as a project manager in Houston, Texas. She's designed projects for various sectors and is all about celebrating and elevating women in the field. So She Builds podcast is all about telling the untold stories of women who've made a big impact in architecture, construction, and development. They highlight stories of women who've played a key role in shaping the built environment, hoping to make women a more equal part of the future of architectural history. These ladies started the podcast after realizing there were gaps in what they learned in school, and they wanted to share the knowledge with others. So I'm very thrilled to have these amazing ladies from She Builds podcast. I'm a fangirl because I've heard about your podcast from Mark LePage and also Brian Miller and other women and men in architecture. And I think you're one of the top 100 podcasts by this magazine or publication. I will share it with you. That's why I'm like really tickled that you guys are here. And thanks for being here on a Saturday. I know we're all in different time zones and you're all busy architects. So thanks for taking the time to be with me and share your stories. But before we get started, I already did the intro earlier. I just want to ask one question for everyone so we get to know each other, especially me. I don't, it's my first time meeting you. Can you share a surprising or little known fact about yourself that people don't know?
That people don't know?
Okay, I can start with me. While you're thinking, I like K-drama, and it's like, it's so embarrassing, but I love K-drama, so I don't publicize that really, but it's out there.
It's not embarrassing. Like, isn't that very in style now? A lot of people like K-drama.
I feel like it is, yeah.
Yeah, my son is like,
You're in
Mom,
good
you're
company."
typical middle-aged woman watching K-drama. I'm like,
No, I don't agree with that statement. I know plenty of young,
okay, good,
young
thank
little
you.
fans
Yes,
of K-dramas.
who are
I'm not
into
one of the young
K-dramas.
fans, but
Yeah. All right, who wants to
everyone
start?
loves it.
Who wants to
Well,
start? A little
I'm-
secret or whatever.
I'm a recovering chocolate addict.
Ooh.
You're in recovery, Norgerie?
Yeah,
Well,
why are you recovering?
So I months ago got a bad virus that wasn't COVID, but it took away my taste buds, and now that they're coming back, chocolate doesn't taste the same.
Oh, that's right.
And it's really sad because I don't trust people that don't like chocolate, so now I feel like I don't trust myself.
Well, you just got to ask them if they have that virus that you had. And then maybe it'll be fair.
Maybe they were born with So yeah, I've never told that to anyone. So there you go. That's a secret.
Man, I'm sorry for you. I love chocolate too.
Right?
Lizzie?
It's the best.
A little known fact about me. I don't feel like this is something that people don't know, but like people who don't know me wouldn't know it. But I have this weird thing where I hiccup one time randomly throughout the whole day. And it doesn't sound like a normal hiccup. Like it sort of sounds like, I don't know, like a
Like a
weird pterodactyl
bird.
noise. Like it's sort
Mhm.
of my office calls it like hiccup Tourette's because it just
Oh,
happens like one time and it's just like you never know when it's going to happen and it's completely involuntary. Like I don't know why I do it, but anyway, just a
that's it. You know
random.
what they say in my culture when you do hiccups, it's like you're growing, you're getting taller
In
and
that
I
taller.
should
case,
be
Lizzie would
really
be 10
tall.
feet tall.
Yeah.
And Jessica,
Um, okay, so I don't know if it's like a secret. I know the ladies know, of course, because it's something that I think always comes up, especially around a dinner table or a meal, is that I don't eat eggs. Or not that I don't eat eggs, I'm allergic to eggs ever since I was little. And I know that eggs are a common food thing that people eat for breakfast, but I just don't. I can have it in baked goods, but I was telling someone recently that, and he was like blown away. He was like, "What? You don't eat eggs?" It's like, no, I just
a
eat
lot of people
toast.
don't eat eggs. Come on.
Yeah, but for an allergy, I guess that's a little more
Yeah.
unusual, a
Weird.
But
known
as long as you
fact.
can eat
Yeah.
baked goods, that's good enough, right? So I want to start by
Yeah.
asking you,
Yes.
how did you all get started in how did you all meet and start this She Builds podcast? And it's really like you have a huge following, right? I mean, you have sponsors. That's amazing. So yeah, can you all share about how you all met and yeah, the
Okay.
ideation of this amazing podcast?
Yeah. Who wants to go?
I'll go because you guys usually tell the story. So
Okay.
I liked. So it goes back to over 15 years ago, or over 13 years ago, y'all. Anyway, sorry. So we met in college, freshman year, first semester at Syracuse University. So we're all based out of these different places, but we all decided to study architecture at the same school. Um, so yeah, since freshman year, we've been friends all throughout college. We're a part of this bigger group of ladies that it's like 8 of us, and we just after graduating, we still remain in contact with each other. We visit each other. We've gone to each other's weddings, officiated each other's weddings. Babies have been born in our friend group, and we've just stayed together for
A long
13
time.
plus years.
Yeah.
A long time.
15. You're right. You are
15.
right. 15.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I know I still look like I'm in my 20s, but
No, I'm really
you
you
know,
all look so young. I'm like
no. If you look
You're
closely, I got
lovely.
like 10 gray hairs that I've been like obsessing over for the past like
you
2 weeks.
just cut them with
But anyway,
scissors. Don't pull them out. Cut them.
okay. So fast forward to 2020. Or 2019 actually, because
Yeah.
Norgerie had this idea of she was into podcasts, she was into history and architectural history, so she wanted to find a podcast that had all of those things, that told stories or that was history related. Um, she couldn't find it, so she
Specifically
had
about women in
in
architecture. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
specific about women. Either way, you couldn't find all of it. But anyway, so Najee told a friend that she didn't see it, so she's gonna make it happen. She was like, I want to create a podcast that does all those things. And the guy was like, seems like it could be a limited series because is there really enough women out there to tell the stories of? And Najee was like, challenge accepted. Then she reached out to Lizzie and I separately, like, hey, I have this idea of a podcast. What do you guys think? Do you guys want to be a part of it? We both said yes. So then we all just became a
She builds
three-person
podcast.
unit, and She Builds
Yeah.
Podcast was born. And we started in 2020. That was our launch.
Was this a pandemic project?
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of. Yeah. I
Well,
mean, the idea and starting to meet about it happened before the pandemic, like in late
before. Yeah.
2019. But
Mm-hmm.
once the pandemic hit, it was like, well, we have all this time now to work on it.
Yeah.
So that, you know, kind of, it
Propelled it.
became, yeah.
So
Yeah.
so starting out, I mean I'm a podcaster. it's rough when the first time you start. Like how did you divide all your tasks? And number one, number two, how do you know which people to research on? Like, how do you find all this research? It's like a true crime podcast, but not really. It's not crime, but it's so hard. Like you know everything about like how do you find the
We do
women?
become detectives looking
Well,
for information.
we each take on one story that we want to talk about, usually one lady, sometimes two. And in the beginning, we were just finding people we wanted to talk about. And when we looked at them all together, we realized that each of them had been the first at something. And so we realized that there was this common thread, and it helped steer the direction of the show. So we decided that moving forward, every season would have what we call a theme. And that helps narrow down who we're looking for, why. And we also try to talk about not only architects, but engineers, landscape architects, different backgrounds. So if we notice that we're talking about too many architects, then we'll research looking for an engineer and things like that. So yeah, and that's the way we divide the task. Each episode is steered by one of us, if that makes sense.
That's great.
And then
And
the other
what's
two are just listening and commenting and enjoying the learning along with the audience
so do you all have to know everything about that person?
as much as we can find.
And
And
as much as can fit in a 30-minute episode.
yes,
Yeah. I mean, I think one person has to know a lot about that person, and then the other two are sort of, discovering it as they're being told the story and that kind of thing. So it's like Norgerie said, one person will research one lady, and like we try to do 3 ladies per season. So it's like in a new season, we'll each pick 3 ladies, and those are the ones we research. We don't have to research anything about any of the other ladies that the other 2 are doing. We just have to react and respond. So
Oh, well, that makes sense. You're kind of divide and conquer. You don't have to know
Right.
everything, right? It's like running a business. You have certain projects and tasks. That's so fascinating.
Yes.
What was your highest downloads in terms of like the women that you highlighted? Do
Oh,
you
well,
know
I
that
guess.
info?
I
Yeah.
think probably
Well,
Zaha Hadid and
Oh,
yeah, I
really?
was
Eileen
gonna say.
Gray. Yeah.
Yeah. At least
Pro-
that's what our Spotify wrap up said.
yeah.
Yeah.
Last year, Zaha, Eileen Gray, maybe
Charlotte
Eames,
Perrios.
Ray,
Oh, Ray
Ray Eames.
Eames. Yeah, yeah. Ladies that are somewhat known, but people want to know even more about
More
them.
about
Like known
them. Yeah.
names. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once
Anything
they discover them,
controversial?
they look for others.
Any
Controversial.
yes.
In what way?
I
Yeah.
don't know.
There's levels
I don't
to
know.
this.
You need to tell me.
There was
I
one
want
What?
the tea,
season.
y'all. She wants the tea.
There's a
Yes.
season we did on power couples,
Oh,
and
okay.
there were a few episodes back to back that it turned out that the lady that we were highlighting happened to, I don't want to say be the other woman,
See,
but
that's what
But
I'm
they
looking
kind of
for.
were.
But they kind of were.
and
Okay,
so one of the listeners sent us a comment saying like, is this the season on the other women? Like what is going on?
The other she builds, the other.
It kind of, yeah, it sort of was though. That was sort of a weird, like, we were like, ooh.
Coincidence? It
which
was a
episode can you share?
romantic steamy
Now I gotta
season.
hear that episode.
Just all of season 5.
All right.
Let's just do that. It's our power couples.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That,
And
that
anything
happens a
else
lot,
you can
but yeah.
share about, controversial or like very interesting women that you were inspired by? I mean, you have so many, but I'm sure there's one probably each of you have. If you can, tell me in Norgerie, Jessica, and Lizzie, who's that one person that really resonated with you in the podcast
Well,
personally?
Jessica and Lizzie are tired of listening to me talking about Lena Bobardi, but I just love Lena Bobardi so much that
Can you
it was the
can
first
you tell me who
time.
she is? Yeah.
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 So Lina Bobardi is an Italian Brazilian architect. She's passed away. Every woman that we talk about usually has passed away. And at the end of each episode, we tie it to a woman that's doing similar work today. And we call that the Carrie Ted, but we can talk about that later. Lina Bobardi was an architect, and one of her major projects is MASPI, which is a museum in Sao Paulo. And is you gotta listen to the episode.
It's a two-parter.
I think it's
Yeah.
episode 38, no, 37 and 38,
Yeah.
probably.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me on that. But the way that she addresses projects, she involves the community. She thought of art not only as the art that was being presented, but the people watching the art becoming the art. So she didn't put the art pieces on the walls like you usually see on museums. She put it all over the place. So people are navigating through the art as they're going through the space. And all of her projects have a similar thought process behind them. And she's just so inspiring. And so I had to talk about her for 2 hours on She-Will's podcast. Yeah,
That's
I can talk
great.
about her for days.
That's
Stop
good
me
to
now.
find inspiration from other women who are no longer with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about
Yeah,
you,
that's
Jessica? Yeah.
So I think I'm trying to think of a lady that was controversial or had. We have a few stories of our ladies that they have a lot of men that are tied to them,
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, or like you, like for example, like Eileen Gray, right? She, Barcelona Pavilion and stuff. You think of Mies van der Rohe, but it was actually her. So like
Lily
stories
Reich,
like
you mean?
that.
you mean Millie
Oh,
Reich.
sorry. Yes, sorry, Lily Reich. We were just
That's
talking
okay.
about Eileen Gray, but yeah, Lily Reich. So, well, Eileen Gray, she had Corbusier, like
Right.
Yeah.
that. They kind of like these men that we learned about in school that stole their shine, and then so to me, it was like the controversy when we we're researching because it's like, yo, it wasn't this man that did this; it was the woman. So Lily
Yeah.
Reich, Eileen Gray, those were some. So I was there were so many that
Yeah.
were floating in my head when you asked that question. Right? So I was trying to figure out
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
one. But an episode that was powerful to me, I think it was also there was two ladies that I mentioned in the episode. It was two stories that I told. It was Georgia Louise Harris and Beverly Lorraine Green. They're two women that most people, when they think of the first Black woman to practice architecture, they think of Norma Scalaric, which is true. She is probably one of the most famous and well known in the history, but it was actually Beverly Lorraine Green who was the first, and then Georgia Louise Harris Brown that was the second. And those two stories, I just remember like not hearing about them in school. So when I
Yeah.
came across them, I was just really inspired and motivated to tell their stories. There's not much known about them, but um, their stories are still powerful when you think of all the things that they were able to do. Beverly, she helped design the housing projects in New York City, or like
Oh.
these housing condos. She was designing them and helped, build them, but as a Black woman, she wouldn't be able to live in them. So that like
Oh.
stories like that's very powerful. And this is back from like season 1. I think it's
Wow.
episode
It's 8.
5, 8, 8. Yeah, episode 8, and I still think about it, and we're in season 10 now, and I
That's
still think
great.
about season 1.
Lizzie?
Yeah, for me, I agree. I was going to say the same thing about the controversy, Jessica. So I'm glad you brought that up because
Mhm.
there's just like a lot of things of like, yeah, you're like, wait a minute. We learned all
What?
about
It's
Chandigarh
so
over and
juicy.
over again in
Mm,
Corbusier, and
mm.
there's like two
Tell it,
women
Lizzie.
who
Okay,
are
tell us. Tell us.
Tell it.
well.
Tell it.
So essentially, Le Corbusier would never have been hired to do Chandigarh if it wasn't for a woman named Jane Drew, who was asked to do the project
Tell
before
it.
him, and she was like,
Hmm.
"I'm too busy. Maybe you should talk to this guy," you know. And
Boom.
so So if it weren't for her, he wouldn't have gotten the project. And then there was also an Indian woman, Yuli Chowdhury, who what almost became, because she had studied um, English and French, like she was almost like the translator between Corbusier and like the whole Indian architectural team and that kind of thing. And so she also worked on a bunch of projects. And again, it's one of those things where everyone just associates Chandigarh with Corbusier, but like there were so many people associated with it. Not just him, right? Like there was this whole team of Indian architects and engineers, and this woman Yuli Chowdhury was part of that as well. So things
This is
like
good
that,
that we
where you're like, oh, that thing that they shoved down our throats at school so much, but they didn't tell us the whole story.
The whole story. Mm-hmm.
yeah, because architecture is really about collaboration, and it's not really about Starchitect anymore. It's a community. I mean, we need, it's not just one person. It's everyone from the drafter to
Right.
the person who cleans the bathroom in the office. You know what I mean? It's like a whole community to build a practice. So it's not just one person. So yeah, I love that about
Yeah.
what, the stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The
There's a
women
lot of that
behind the
with
men.
a lot of those guys like Mies and Frank Lloyd Wright,
Mm-hmm.
all of them
I
Albert
have
love you.
kind of
I
these
Hofmann.
love that you
women
talk to.
behind them.
Yeah, I love how you talk about them like you just met them, like I interviewed them in my podcast, like me and
Yeah.
Frank.
Yeah. You know, good old
Yeah,
Frank.
Those guys.
yeah. So I mean, what are the challenges you face when bringing these stories to light? Do you,
Sometimes it's just the resources.
yeah.
Yeah, having enough
Yeah, like where do you
information
find
because
these resources?
because you had asked a question
Mm-hmm.
earlier that, I mean, we sort of answered, but just sort of like, how do you find these women? Like, it's actually not that hard to find names of women. Like, there's a
Mm-hmm.
huge list of, like, you can find names of women who have worked in architecture, like, throughout history,
Mm-hmm.
but finding enough information on them, besides just the fact that, like, so and so was an architect. Um, that part, I think, is the challenging piece. And so, I mean, it's like a lot of Googling and like footnotes in articles about somebody, to find out where
Yep.
they source their information and things like that, to just sort of, you kind of, or books that have been published. There are like several good resources, because there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, I think, who are trying to do this work too, along with us. We're not the only ones. And so using them as resources for our show has also been great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I
it's a
mean,
language thing too, right, Norgerie?
Yeah.
yeah. We try not to do only Americans or English speaking architects, but then the problem is I find right now I'm researching Austrian architect, and all the information I'm finding about her is in German. So I had to solicit a friend of mine that speaks and understands German to translate a little bit for me so that I could then share her story with our listeners. So that's sometimes a struggle too.
Mm-hmm.
No, the task when I found out about your podcast, I'm like, wow, I just interview people. You really dig up a lot of things from like 100 years ago, right?
Yeah, we try.
Yeah.
You're like
There's really good
detectives.
resources though. Like we have one of our favorite books is Women of Steel and Stone. Right, I got
Mm-hmm.
that name
Okay.
right,
Mm-hmm.
by
Yeah.
Anna M. Lewis, and she highlights 22 women in the profession. Another really good resource is oh man, the one with the American women,
Pioneering women
pioneering
Yes.
women. Yeah, great resource online. Then
from
there's
the Beverly Willis
also
Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
and the man, I don't know why I'm blanking on these resources. The
Oh,
library
there's
in
the
Madame
Virginia Tech.
international.
Architect
Yes.
Yeah.
and Undio Arquitecta is also a great website as well.
Source.
Yeah, if you speak Spanish, Un día una arquitecta, so good.
Do you
And
all speak
like we
Spanish or
said,
just Norgerie?
they
We
speak
all do.
Spanish.
We
Yeah,
all
they
speak
do.
some to varying
Really?
degrees.
Yeah. Don't be shy.
We did give a presentation in Spanish once.
We did.
So.
Oh,
We
wow.
did.
Where?
Yeah.
In Costa.
Costa
So we
Rica.
did it through Zoom, but it
Yeah,
was
virtual.
for Costa Rican. So they were celebrating the International Day of Nurses, which is the birth date of Florence Nightingale. And Florence Nightingale, have you heard of Florence Nightingale?
Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't until I started doing this. So she's a nurse, but she actually completely revolutionized hospital design. And
Mm-hmm.
so we talked to this nurse group about the ways that she improved hospital design and how she talked to architects and collaborated with them. And we did this whole presentation in Spanish, and it was
Wow,
great.
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's, you girls are, I'm more impressed now that you're
Oh.
presenting it.
Thank you.
Next you'll present in Austrian or German, right?
Oh
Whoa.
Oh,
gosh.
I don't know about that.
Actually, I speak a little
Oh.
German and it's really rough. Like I went to
Okay,
school
so
in
we going.
Germany.
Oh,
It's very difficult to learn. So
okay.
so
Oh,
in what
so I
ways
can
do you
send you
build?
resources, right? I
Yeah.
can you maybe you can help me a little bit when I find things in
Translate.
ask
German.
ask Chat GPT.
Oh.
Actually, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Right. There's a lot of AI tools out there actually, and
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
transcribing things. Yeah. So yeah, ask Chat
Yeah.
GPT 4.0 version or whatever. So in what
Okay.
ways do you believe that your podcast is making an impact in creating more inclusivity in the industry? Like, do you have people like reaching out to you and thanking you personally for like how has it affected each of your lives individually? And have people responded to them thanking you, things like that? You have any personal stories you want to share?
So I guess the way that we find out is through social media.
Yeah.
Um, where we had a professor tweet at us that our episodes are included in the curriculum
Oh
that
my
she
God.
teaches.
I'm going to
So
cry.
yeah,
That's amazing.
th- that was our exact response. Like that, because that's what we want, right? We want these stories to be well known. We want the Yuli Chowdhuries and the Julia Morgans to be just as well known as the Franks and the Meese and the other men out there. So yeah, hearing that, that was like we did it. So that's one way that's been very seeing the work that we do manifesting or impacting or manifesting what we want to accomplish. We've had people say that like yeah, architecture history was kind of boring in school, but listening to our show, we say it in a way that's entertaining, and they're excited to learn about it. Just recently, a Dutch magazine wanted to use some of our sources for some of our ladies. Yeah, y'all didn't read that email. But yeah.
I could see Lizzie's
I was like,
face.
wait,
Like,
what?
what?
Yeah, I was waiting for yeah, I just responded to her. But yeah, so we're going to be sourced in a Dutch magazine or something like that. More to
Whoa.
yeah. I literally just responded to her earlier this week.
Cool.
But yeah, so things like that. Like our goal and our impact is just to share these stories far and wide, any way possible, whether it's through the curriculum at a school, in a magazine, or just even having someone come up to say like, "Hey, like I'm in this industry and I find these stories inspiring or it's so entertaining to listen to." Then mama, we
Yeah.
made it. Like
I think so many of these stories too, we're just so blown away by the perseverance and like tenacity of
yep.
these women. And so like I would hope that these stories are like inspirational for people who are thinking about going into the industry or like are in it and it's just really hard. Just to
Mhm.
know that like women before like came before them and did it also and like their struggle is not um they're not alone in
They're not
that and that
alone.
kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it is so hard and a lot of these women you're like they did what? Like and um yeah, they're just really go-getters and so I think the perseverance aspect is huge. And so
Yeah.
I think that I think for us that's been a huge thing, and I hope that that is also a like big takeaway for listeners as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me personally, I was going through the architecture registration exams while doing the podcast, and the stories of the ladies kept me going. Like, I, Julia Morgan tried out 3 times to get into architecture school, and she didn't stop. She didn't quit. Neither can I, things like that.
Yeah.
That's what keeps us going.
So, how has podcasting changed your life and your career in particular, each of you?
I think it's giving me an outside passion, like it gives me a new perspective on my own work that I do at my job, listening to the stories of these other women that came before me and the things that they were doing. And I see it in the way that I approach just my job and like the passion that I put into it, being inspired by the ladies that we talk about each season. Yeah, it's giving me like a new fire or inspiration in my career.
Yeah. I would agree, because I feel like it's like a different way to look at architecture, and so it's sort of, I agree that it's like a nice outside thing that doesn't make me feel like I'm just so focused on my job and that kind of thing, but it also is sort of, but they're both architecture, it's architecture related, so it like kind of ties back to it, and um it's like a good reprieve from the job stuff, but also keeps you in the profession in some way. You know what I mean? And just sort of like learning about interesting stories and how they can relate back to work that you're doing.
Yeah.
So all of those things, ditto. Um, but I think, well, for me, at the time that we started this podcast, I was working at the AIA's national headquarters under the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion umbrella. So to me, it, like this podcast, it was like like um, an added like affirmation or reinforcement of like the purpose that I want or the impact that I want to bring to the industry of like making it more inclusive and sharing these stories of underrepresented communities and things like that. So I just like that it was something that I was doing outside of work that I could see that I had more hands-on capabilities and seeing the reach that it can go to between different cities and states and countries and demographics. So now I'm not working at the AIA, but it's still like a good purpose driven thing that I think we're all passionate about just because of all the things that we've been able to accomplish so far and goals that we still have to come.
Yeah. Have you met people, they meet you and they're like, oh, you're the host of the podcast? Are they like fan?
Oh my gosh, let's talk
Can you
about
Yes.
this
please,
because
let's
it
talk
is
about that.
trippy.
Can you please let me know your experience? Because I also have that kind of experience. I'm like, what? You know me? Like,
I was
what?
gonna
Yes.
say we want to hear from you as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No, no, this is about you, but I'll share later. Who wants to
Yeah.
start?
Okay, because I'm
Right, we're
sure.
we're
Jessica,
regular
do you want to
people. I'm a
share?
I'm a mom. Like I work in my basement. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to share the LA one and I'll do the San Francisco
yeah,
one?
yeah, yeah. I really want to
Okay,
hear
okay,
it.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so back in 2022, we got invited to do a session at the AIA Los Angeles Women in Architecture conference that they were having. And Lizzie and I went to present. And after our session, someone comes up to us and was like,
Or
"Oh
in the
my goodness,
Q&A.
or the Q&A part." Yes,
Yeah.
actually. So like they got live reactions. They're like, "Wait, I have to take a moment because I'm totally fangirling right now because I didn't realize that it was the She Builds podcast ladies like presenting. Like I recognized the podcast and I recognized the names, but I didn't know that it was actually you two speaking until I heard your voices because I recognized your voices." Like because it's a podcast, it's not really
Yeah, yeah,
visual. So
yeah.
they recognized our voices before they realized that we were in the room with them.
It was so trippy. Like,
Right? Isn't it? Okay, Lizzie, what about
it
you?
Yeah,
is.
What
it's
was
weird.
your moment? What was
Yeah.
your moment? Like,
So then at the AAA conference this past June in 2023, we were at we were
A
at the
mixer?
conference, and we were at like a mixer that evening or something like that, and at the bar. And we have like sweatshirts and stuff, so we're wearing our swag, and like these women, like, they turn to us and they go, "Oh, I listened to that podcast." Like, "Oh, do you listen to that too?" And we were like, "We are that podcast." And they were like, "What?" It was it was so funny, and just like really cool, like random connection and that kind of thing.
What about Norgerie?
Oh,
Am I pronouncing your name correctly? I feel like I should have
Yeah.
asked. Okay, good. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear
uh,
it.
I wasn't at those two instances. I haven't had anything that specific, but like sometimes I'll introduce myself and I'll say, "Hi, I'm Norgerie," and someone will say, "Yeah, I know who you are. You're from Shebill's podcast," and I'm like, "Okay, yes."
Wait, what? You've never told us that.
Well, it's inside like women in architecture communities
Sure,
and
but
things like
even
that.
still,
but that's
like,
still amazing.
that's still really
They know
cool.
you before you know them.
Yeah.
No, it's really
and
it's
always
weird.
weird. Yeah. I don't know how to react other than, "Oh, thank you. I hope you like the show." Like.
Yeah.
So, you probably had a few instances like
Yeah,
that
tell
as well,
us.
though,
Yeah,
if you've been speaking and
I'm very
stuff.
shy for I mean, I'm not a natural extrovert. I went to this Entre Architect event in Austin, Texas, and I normally go with
Mm,
a colleague or whatever, and I went by
Yeah.
myself because it was last minute. So I'm like, okay, I'll be by myself. No one will talk to me. I won't have any dinner invitations. Like, I'll just go to my room. And I was like, oh, I don't know anyone. And so some people wanted a photo with me. I'm like, why? Do you know, like, and then I went out to dinner. I got invited, and then this lady across, I'm like, "Hi, I'm Aya. You know, and she's like, "I know you. I listen to your podcast. You're famous." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Okay." It's just so weird. And I'm calling my husband. I'm like, "I
mm.
got invited to dinner. One lady asked for a photo with me." It's just so
Oh.
no, but it's
Cue the
like,
paparazzi.
yeah. But the thing is about podcasting. I just came back from Podfest. Have you heard of Podfest?
I have, but I don't know. Our industry is so niche. I always wonder about those, like, when you look at podcasting at large.
No, it's
How
actually it's
how
there's
was it
two
for
types.
you?
There's two types of expos: Podfest and Podcast Movement. Podcast Movement is the
Okay.
big ones with like all the
Uh-huh.
popular dudes, right? Like, you know,
Mhm.
Diarrhea for CEO, like all the major people.
Mhm.
Podfest is bootstrapped by this guy named Chris Krimitsos, kind of like small. You
Mm.
know, he really is like grassroots community, and the community there was amazing because podcasting has given us a voice to share our stories to inspire people, right? And one of
Right.
my
Okay.
biggest takeaways from Podfest, it's for small podcasters. A lot of podcasts about cancer survivor, about suicide prevention,
Mm.
because these are the stories that can help other people.
Hmm.
There's one podcaster that I met who talks about being um, a single mom by choice because she didn't find a husband. So she has this best friend who's gay, and they wanted to have a surrogate. So because she never found the perfect guy, so she's podcasting about that. You know, it's just amazing
Mm.
to see stories. And one guy in particular, his name is Wally Green. He came from very humble beginnings, almost like not humble beginnings, but very disruptive childhood. But because he started to
Mm.
play ping pong, he became one of the top ping pong table tennis players in the US, and he went to North Korea to to play ping pong,
Oh,
and it
wow.
saved
Wow.
his life.
Wow.
But so now he started a podcast, and his keynote, which I wanted to share with you, is like, if you're not sharing your stories, it's selfish, because podcasting and stories can save lives, right?
Mm.
Because when one time he was
Powerful.
talking about his story, a person DM'd him. I think was like, thank you so much. I was about to commit suicide, but I'm giving it a day to think about it. So,
Wow.
these are the stories is the power of podcasting. That's why I really commend all of you for really doing the things, because first of all, this is not a paying gig. I mean, I'm not money. You're not. No one's paying me. I'm not Ira Glass. I'm not This American Life, right?
Yeah.
I'm a
None of
business
us
Mhm.
are.
owner.
None of us are.
So it's very um it's kind of like it's very on I was so excited when Mary told me that you guys all agreed to be on the podcast, because podcasting is not easy. I don't know who does all your post production, who does like how you divide all of this, the show notes. It's what you're really giving back to the world, to the women, and to the future of the young architects, right? So
Thank
yeah.
you.
No, it's
Yeah,
We
really
it's
do
like
have a team.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's good. That's good. So
a
talk
team
about
of us.
your 100th
Yes.
episode. Your 100th
Oh yes.
episode. Yes.
Oh yeah. So
Can
it's
you tell
so
us who the
exciting.
person is? No, who your
Oh well. So we could talk about it because the
Okay, go.
person
Yeah.
is us. we we are the people.
Oh.
So the structure of our seasons is that we it's 10 episodes per season. 9 of the episodes are stories of our ladies, and then the 10th or the last episode of the season is like a wrap up. Is
Oh,
like a
okay.
wrap up of like the season. We'll do corrections or additional information we find. We play a little game. So
Reflections.
our reflections and common themes or something that we might have seen across the ladies. But so our 100th episode is actually the last episode of our season 10 um, season.
Yeah.
So,
So it'll be
so
a
we're
wrap up.
so it'll be a wrap up.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap up all the stuff from our previous season, but since it's also our 100th episode, we will also take like a more of a reflection of the past 10 seasons, things that we might have learned from ourselves between season 1 and now, or even just like our general like practice of recording and podcasting. The us Also the other like exciting part that I'm just so pumped for is that, when we record our episodes, we usually record it like this, like how we are now, like in a closet, in a room, and virtual with, just Aya's usually not here. It's just the three of us in the room, in the virtual room. But episode 100, it's going to be recorded in front of a live audience virtually.
Oh,
So
where
we're
is it?
inviting
Oh,
all of
okay.
our listeners. So it'll be virtual. It's on Saturday, March 2nd, 2 p.m. Eastern. We will be recording live. We're sending out a link to everyone that's interested in joining. They'll be able to chat with us, send in questions and stuff. So I'm excited because a comment that we get on our show a lot is that when they hear our episodes, they feel like they're in the room with us, or they find themselves like reacting or talking to us. So now is their opportunity to do it. March 2nd. Ooh, episode 100.
Wow, amazing. I'm
You can
episode, I
join
think,
us, Aya.
60. I'm 60,
Oh,
episode 60, but yeah.
oh,
That's
That's
great.
that's
awesome.
great. I we can share some stats about this because we started researching a little bit on making it past 30 is a
Yeah.
huge accomplishment, especially when
Yeah.
you think
Yeah.
of us as like small
Yeah.
podcasting groups. So yay! It's we're
Congrats,
doing good.
Aya.
We should be proud of
Yes,
ourselves. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I run a business and I also have 2 kids and a husband, so it's like it's a lot,
So you're doing it all.
right?
I
You're
don't know
doing it
how you
all.
do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have an editor. I don't edit because I'm not good at technology, but I started the
Yeah.
podcast during COVID to highlight successful women in architecture alive,
Hmm.
obviously.
Hmm.
So we're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
We are. We
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, and it's been amazing because like my podcast is being shared in the Women in Architecture New York City. Like listen to this episode
Hmm.
about digital marketing or how to monetize this, or things like that.
Yes.
It's like it's so humbling though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
it is.
That
it
people
really
like
is.
But it's
acknowledge and know.
amazing.
Yeah.
But it feels so
Um
good to give back to the community in that way as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like what you guys do outside of work and podcasting, hobbies.
With what time, Aya?
Yeah, like I would say that I have my plants. Like I've been a plant person that I would
Oh,
take care. Yeah, but they dying, so I still like I
Oh,
don't know. Or maybe because
no.
I've been really busy. I should say.
right,
So
right,
I've
right.
been really.
Yeah.
Some are thriving because they're the ones that you don't need to bother too much, but some are struggling.
Yeah,
So that was my hobby, but I'm not doing good at it.
yeah. I
I
hear
watch.
you watch reality TV and you have a gym routine.
Oh, just yes. So that's
Yes.
new. The
I
gym
want to know
routine. I'm
about the
starting.
reality TV and the gym routine.
The gym routine is new. I do have a trainer that I meet with once a
Oh,
week. So
good for
Nice.
you.
that's been, yeah, I'm 2024. That's my year. I'm
Good,
gonna
good, good.
get on top of that. Reality TV, I think we would need a whole other show about it.
Okay, well,
Like just,
you can
I
send
watch
me
a
the
lot
chat.
of it and too much.
It's okay.
Okay, okay,
I
yeah.
You
watch
guys
K
watch The
drama.
Golden
Housewives.
Bachelor?
Oh, not the Golden Bachelor.
I've been
I couldn't.
curious about that one.
But I
I
have
heard it's
seen.
good.
I've heard it's good, and I've listened to other podcasts that talk about other reality shows, and they've talked about the Golden Bachelor
You're
and some of the
hardcore, Jessica.
controversies there.
You listen to podcasts about.
Yeah.
See, that should have been the
Yes.
answer to the first question,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
Lizzie.
Yes. That's yeah.
Yeah, I love baking and like cooking and baking new recipes, so that is like a good
Ooh,
that's like what helps me unwind. But I'm
yeah.
also really big into quilting. I'm a
Oh,
quilter.
wow.
That was definitely a pandemic pickup. Like I've always known how to sew, and my mom
Yeah.
was always sort of into sewing and that kind of thing, and she quilted when I grew up, but I got way into it into the pandemic, and I don't get to do it as
It-
much
It's
lately now, I feel like, but
it's
yeah.
good to be a serial hobbyist. My kids ask me, why do I do this and this and this? I'm like, you know what? The more hobbies I collect, the more interesting I become and the more people I meet. Right?
Yep.
I
Like
am
I was a
definitely a
triathlete
serial
10,
hobbyist.
yeah, like
That's a
I
good
was a
point.
triathlete 10 years ago, right? And then I went to this
Wow.
expo and then this guy, when he found out I was a triathlete, he became my client. I own an architecture drafting business. So
Okay.
that's
Mhm.
when he found out that I was a triathlete, he became a client. We've been working for 10 years, Like I used to
Wow.
That's
scrapbook and
awesome.
all that. Like I used to make sourdough bread, whatever, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's okay to be
No,
you're
same.
a more interesting person when you collect hobbies. So
Yeah.
Yep.
I used to
Norgerie,
salsa
I
dance
hear.
every week before the pandemic
Oh
and
my
like
god.
that,
Oh,
like those kinds of
Hmm.
things.
yeah,
I've fallen off
exactly.
of that one, but
I
yeah.
went salsa dancing once here, and then I got COVID from the dance studio, and I'm like,
Oh
No.
no.
Oh, no, no, no. Give it
yeah, I'm like,
another
okay, I'm not doing that
chance.
again.
Okay, but
No.
before you got COVID, did you have fun?
That's
Yes, I
good
did.
question.
It's just
Yeah,
like, oh my,
see?
and then I'm like, I
There's your
won't do it.
answer.
I know this one guy, because I don't know, in salsa class, you're not there to pick up people, you're just there to
No.
dance, right?
Right.
Hmm.
Everyone is just like hardcore. This guy wanted to pick me up and like throw me under his legs. I'm like, dude, I'm
Calm
not a size
down.
zero, okay? I'm like a size whatever. I'm not petite. Like you can anyway, too much information. I'm like, I'm out of here.
No,
But it's like,
I love it. I was salsa
Norgerie.
dancing yesterday, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
jealous.
oh, fun.
Yeah, so you should give it a try, Aya. You should do it
Okay, I'll
again.
I'll go back. Yeah, it was just
Uh,
intimidating because people there are so good. It's a dance studio and they really like take it seriously. And I'm just like
Yeah.
walking away and like inching my way to the door. Anyway, I'll try again.
yes, please do. So yeah, when I'm not salsa dancing, I I like playing bingo.
Yes.
If this could be
With
considered
who?
a
Favorite
hobby.
Wait,
hobby.
wait. Okay, with who? Who do you play
Yeah.
bingo with? Online or what?
With
She goes
800,
places.
yeah,
No,
bingo's a
she has
big
like a
thing
bingo
in.
hall.
There's a bingo
Hmm.
hall. Yeah, I play with 800 strangers.
Oh my god.
Sometimes I win. I've won like $200. but I don't want to talk about how much I've lost, but I've gained a lot of happiness, you know? I go with my husband, or when family visits me or friends, I always tell them, like, we're going to go to the bingo hall. And people are like, what are we, 60? But then they get there and
It's
they
so
get it.
fun.
It's so fun. It's
I
so
went
good.
with you. It's a great time.
Yes. So I try to go like at least 4 times a year.
That's great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good to have like hobbies like that. I have a new hobby and people think I'm crazy. You might think I'm crazy. I'm now a polar plunger. I go to
Okay.
I heard
What is that?
I listened to one of your episodes and I wanted to talk to you about that because
Oh, you listen to the episode, my end
that
year
epi-
end. Yeah,
yes, because I was like, I need to talk to her about this. 'Cause
so I plunge once a week. Okay, it's
Wait, what is
okay.
it? What is it? I've
Okay,
never heard
polar
of this.
plunging is when you go to like really cold temperatures and plunge. So I found a polar plunge
Into the
group
water.
into the water.
Why do you do this?
Because
It's
it's
good for your
healthy.
health.
It's a whole movement,
Yes,
right?
there's a
Yeah.
whole
So
yeah.
it's called the Wim Hof movement. But last week I went. 2 weeks ago I went. It was the coldest. They had to break the ice in the river. Yeah, and then we plunged, and it was like negative 26. I know 26 Fahrenheit with the minerals, negative
Oh.
1.6 C, and it
Ooh.
was like it's really good for your if you have anxiety, sleep problems, muscle recovery,
Yeah.
like it really is good for all of that. And I'm from the Philippines. I'm used to like 80 degrees all year round, and now I don't mind living in Cleveland, Ohio. Like, bring it on. Where's the snow? Right. No, but yeah, that's my new hobby. Like, once a week I join a group because it's also good for like stress, and also like you can
Mhm.
breathe through anything in life. Like, if you have any stress, anxiety problems, whatever, it really teaches you how to breathe and slow down. So yeah, talk to me, Jessica, offline. I'll tell you about
Yeah.
plunging.
No, yes, because it's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm in Florida. I was wondering about that if you did it in a tub or if you went like
Oh
to a
no,
body of water that's
I
cold.
went. I'll
Yeah.
send you. Check my Instagram. The only problem with the plunge is like everyone there has a 6 pack, and they're like all so fit. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna hide in the back because they're like athletes, right? And they're like, and they're all like men in bikinis or whatever, speedos, and they have zero body fat, and the women
Right.
too, because they're the ones that are running. I just
They're
ran 20
athletes.
miles. Yeah,
Yeah.
the lady was like, I ran
Yeah.
20 miles this morning. I can use a plunge. I'm like, okay. And
Oh god.
so they took a group photo, and I hid in the corner because I'm like, I'm not wearing a bikini. They're not regular folks. They're literally like zero body fat with
Athletes, elites.
Right.
yes.
Like
So anyway,
professional athlete kind of vibes.
Yeah.
yeah.
How long
But
do you
you
have
know
to
what?
stay in the water?
Well, depends how long you can tolerate it. So
Yeah.
my
But
typical
they
is
say
two
like
to three
11
minutes.
minutes a week is supposed to be really good for you or something like that, right? Isn't that
I
there's
don't know.
something
I just
about
go
that.
once a week. Yeah. So it's I mean, if you have opportunity to do it, try for 30 seconds. It's really good. It's so beneficial
Yeah.
for your health.
Well, that's
So
why
that's
like at
my thing.
spas
Yeah.
too,
I
they
want
have
to
like a
try it.
cold pool, like cuz you're supposed to like
Yeah.
cold plunge.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
So guys, this has
It's
been
fascinating.
amazing. So what's next for with She Builds? Like, oh wait, I have one more question. How long is one season? Like, you did so much since 2020. So how
Mhm.
many seasons per year? And what's next for the podcast? And is there any ask you want our audience? Do you want people to give you recommendations of women, international women? So let me know what it is. So how many seasons per year, and what's next for the podcast, and what do you want from my audience?
Yeah, we do roughly 3 seasons a year, like give or take, and
Mhm.
10 episodes per season. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So there's that.
So
And
what's
then
next for
coming
She
up,
Builds? Yeah.
so right now we're in the middle of season 10 that's airing. We have new
Yeah.
episodes that come out every Tuesday. So that's happening. We just had episode 95
5.
5.
come out last Tuesday. Um So we mentioned before, but we have our live recording on March 2nd, 2 p.m. Eastern. It's a Saturday because we got jobs and this is our usual recording time. That's live that everyone can join us. Yeah, we're always looking for like caryatids, which are women that are doing their thing today, holding up the profession, whereas through its mentoring or that the work that they do, empowering communities or what have you. So we're always looking for recommendations. Folks can email us at shebuildspodcast@gmail.com or check us out on social, She Builds Podcast, on Instagram and Facebook, She Builds Pod, on Twitter or X or whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Norgerie.
Yeah. Well, they've said it all.
Anything, just parting words. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, please, we are always looking for recommendations from our listeners. Aya, if you have any Philippine architects you want to send our way,
Yeah.
Yes.
we would love that. Because I was thinking, I was like, oh, we haven't covered any lady from the Philippines yet. We need to do that. Or it could be an engineer, a landscape architect, a furniture designer. If they're in the building and construction industry, we want to know about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So please send us your recommendations. So
And people who
that's all I have to
speak
say.
German, if you wanna transcribe for Norgerie,
Listen, yes.
come
If you
on,
speak other
volunteer.
languages,
Yes.
yes,
French,
you'll get a shout
German,
out.
Spanish, right? What else? What
Anything.
languages?
Spanish, I think, is the one thing that
Oh,
we're
okay.
good.
We don't. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dutch, yeah, Dutch, Korean,
Yeah.
Oh,
Any
yes.
language.
any languages.
Okay, well, that's good. I'll post that in our show notes. Whoever wants to volunteer and work with amazing women at the
Translation.
She Builds podcast. Yes. All right,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure talking to you all.
Likewise.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Architect My Life, a podcast brought to you by MGS Global Group.